Hey everybody, welcome in. Happy Thursday and good afternoon. I'm really excited for this webinar, but before we start the conversation, gonna let folks start trickling in, and once we hit a critical mass, we'll go ahead and get started. But in the meantime, I'm gonna do a little bit of housekeeping. So just to let everybody know, this webinar is being recorded. So if you are looking for the recording afterwards, or if you want to send out to other folks, we'll send the recording and the slides to the email that you registered with. We'll also upload the recording to our YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel is the National Coalition for Homeless Veterans. All of our past webinars and other content lives there. So you're more than welcome to subscribe if you are interested in doing some of the past content. Chat is disabled, but we do have a questions tab, which is available for you to ask questions whenever you want to. It's a little square with a circle in it. Feel free to ask questions during the presentations, or you can also wait to the very end. Whichever way you prefer, the world's your oyster. But that said, we'll have about 15 to 10 minutes reserved at the very end for Q&A. So the way this is going to work, we're going to have presentations in the beginning with Emmy and Ryan, and then we'll move on to that Q&A portion at the very end. So welcome to our facilities management webinar. My name is Jay. I'm the program associate for NCHV, and it's our mission to end veteran homelessness. And I'm really excited for these presentations and discussion around strengthening operations of veterans housing facilities. Now, this webinar is only made possible through the generous support of the Home Depot Foundation, who have been really impactful leaders in this mission. Now, for those of you in this audience that operate or plan to operate veterans housing, whether it's GPD, PSH, or day centers, this webinar was made to help answer one of the most important questions in your work, and that's how do we sustainably manage a facility that offers a safe environment for veterans to thrive? Now, as many of you know, successfully operating facilities are an integral part of supporting veterans residents' road to recovery, and it comes with its own unique challenges and considerations. Veterans that reside in your facilities may have complex physical and mental needs, and housers in this space may be operating with a small staff, tight budgets, older buildings in need of repairs, or other common issues. And so for today's conversation, we really want to dive into those practices to navigate those operational challenges, as well as consider ways to manage facilities in line with the needs of veteran residents. So we'll cover several core areas in the operations of facilities management, from maintaining the building's condition and financial health, security, inspections, risk mitigation, the whole nine yards. And so our objective today is to offer you practical insights to create a sustainable environment that builds trust and dignity for the veterans. So we have an expert panel that we'll hear from today. We have Emmy Hildebrand. Emmy Hildebrand is HVAF's first female CEO and brings over 20 years of experience serving veterans, including 14 years at HVAF. While a senior at DePauw University, Emmy had the privilege to join the staff of United States Senator Richard G. Lugar. She went on to work for the statesman after graduation for 10 years as his military and veterans affairs coordinator. Upon Senator Lugar's retirement in 2012, HVAF hired Emmy as the organization's first public policy coordinator. In 2021, Emmy was promoted to CEO and earned her Master's of Business Administration at the University of Southern Indiana. Thank you, Emmy, for joining us today. We also have Ryan Campbell. Ryan is a mission-driven security professional with nearly 20 years of leadership and security experience in nonprofit, healthcare, and military industries. As director of campus security at Brighton Marine, Ryan takes a holistic and compassionate approach to whole campus security and operations. As a veteran himself, Ryan and his team create an environment of comfort, safety, and respect for the residents, tenants, employees, and visitors of Brighton Marine. In 2005, he enlisted in the United States Army Reserve and served as a military police team leader in the 94th MP Company. In 2010, Ryan deployed to Baghdad, Iraq, where he protected high-ranking officials and worked with Iraqi police forces. His MP Company was attached to the 1st and 3rd Infantry Divisions, and Ryan was honorably discharged in 2013. Ryan is an experienced, well-rounded leader and expert in security and campus operations. So again, while we're together, please feel welcome to ask questions as they come up. Like I said, we'll save them for the Q&A portion after the presentations. I'll now hand it over to Emmy, who will start us off. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay, for that introduction, and NCHV for the opportunity to be here this afternoon. Also, a special shout out to David working in the background on all of our tech support. As Jay said, I am Emmy Hildebrand. I am the CEO of HVAF of Indiana. I lead a team of about 70 people here in Indianapolis dedicated to ending veteran homelessness for those in our community. Next slide. We were founded in 1993 by a man we're all familiar with. If you have been around NCHV a minute, we were started as part of Steve Peck's Far From Home organization. So we started as a very small chapter, mostly volunteer based, with one property that had 5 transitional housing beds. We have grown over the years, thanks to really our first full-time CEO, who we have named our headquarters after, Colonel Don Morrow. He served quite a long career in the military. He served in 2 different branches of the military across 3 wars, then had a lengthy career in state government, and then came here to HVAF and really built the structure that made us a regular agency. It's under his supervision that we grew and acquired different properties to be able to offer the services that we do today. As I mentioned, in 1995, we had 5 beds. Today, we operate 103 transitional housing beds, as well as 62 units of permanent housing spread across 15 properties here in Indianapolis. Next slide. I'd like to share a video now that explains more about our programs and kind of gives you a little bit more of a visual of who HVAF of Indiana is.
As a nation, we owe everything to our veterans, but thousands of our military heroes are forced to live on the street, struggling with homelessness, unemployment, and
I think we might have lost audio on the video. So.
Okay. Well, if nothing else, it's a picture show of some of our properties and some of the work that we do. We can go ahead and go to the next slide.
My apologies.
So like many of you, we offer a variety of services to veterans and families to help end their homelessness. We offer transitional housing with intensive case management, primarily funded through the VA's Grant Per Diem program. We also, in 2019, converted several transitional housing properties to be permanent supportive housing properties. And in 2021, completed our first low-income housing tax credit project to round out our 62 units of permanent supportive housing. We offer rent and utility bill assistance through the VA's Supportive Services for Veteran Families program. We've also worked to secure funding through the Emergency Solutions Grant, which is a HUD program, to offer the same rapid rehousing services to veterans of the National Guard and Reserve who don't qualify for VA assistance. But we've also learned over the last 30 years that housing is not the only way that we can help veterans achieve self-sufficiency. So we have a robust employment and workforce development team that works with veterans in a couple of different ways. We have a team of employment specialists that work with veterans to immediately obtain jobs. So we do things like resume writing, application assistance and connecting with employers with a goal of quickly obtaining a job so a veteran has that sort of sustaining income. But we also have a really unique program called VetWorks, which is a 3-phase workforce development program where veterans really are equipping themselves with the skills to be competitive in today's job market. So the first phase of VetWorks is an internship, either here at HVAF or with one of our partner organizations, with a goal of sharpening their soft skills. So coming to work on time, working well with others, taking instructions, all those sorts of things, so that they're prepared for the second phase, which is education or training of some sort, whether that's obtaining a degree or a certificate or completing an apprentice program so that they are upskilled to obtain a career that pays at least $20 an hour or more with benefits. We also have a partnership with the Neighborhood Christian Legal Clinic, another nonprofit here in Indianapolis, to provide legal support to the veterans we serve. We have a food, clothing, and hygiene pantry that's open twice weekly for veterans in need. And lastly, our most recent program is a really robust mental health program supported by a mental health team. Next slide, please. In 2024, we served 1,346 unique veterans across all of our programs, and we distributed 105,000 pounds of food and clothing through our food pantry. And that usually works out to be about 400 veterans a month that are touched by HVAF programming. Next slide. All of the work here at HVAF is rooted in our core values, which as a staff we collaborated on and redid about 4 years ago. And those values are compassion, accountability, respect, effective, and selfless service. And sometimes there can feel like a divide between the social service staff and the maintenance and support teams, but all of us keep these values at the forefront of everything that we do to help make sure that we're treating every veteran with dignity and respect when they come here to HVAF. Next slide. I mentioned we had several properties around Indianapolis. So this is a picture of all of those properties and a map of where they are located here in Indianapolis. And I'll pause here to say that I think this webinar is so timely because, significant maintenance and upkeep of all of our properties are not included in our VA grants, and there's something that we have to work really hard to do. And I'm sure all of you are in the same boat. So I'm happy to have a conversation about the unique ways we figured out how to do it. You can see there we have, as I mentioned earlier, 103 transitional housing properties, beds, I should say, at different properties, and then 62 units of permanent supportive housing. We acquired most of our properties in very unique ways. Most of them were donated to us. And then we purchased our headquarters building, which is in the upper left-hand corner, as well as Manchester Apartments, which is below it. But the rest were donations that we were lucky to get, which kind of explains our scattered site model. Next slide. As I mentioned, we all keep our core values front and center in everything that we do, but we also are all here to serve veterans. And I think that's what makes us really unique. And we can make sure that we're doing that in a quality way by investing in a few things. The very first thing is staff training. So one of the things that all of our social services staff do, but also all of our maintenance staff do, is go through crisis prevention training and de-escalation. We have a CPI instructor on staff who is able to lead those classes to help make sure that our non-mental health professionals are equipped with tools to help de-escalate situations. We all know that the veterans we serve are very vulnerable, and they are coming to us at the worst time in their life, and they may struggle even while they're here in our program. So we teach verbal de-escalation tools and physical actions to take that would help de-escalate a situation. We also this year added our very first sort of live workplace violence training. We've done some different video simulators and modules, but we had a training organization come on site and teach us different physical things you can do to de-escalate a situation, and how your own body language can either help or hurt the situation. We also make sure that all of our staff are trained in first aid, and we're also all trained to administer Narcan and use an AED if necessary. About 50% of the veterans that we serve are over the age of 60, so encountering a health problem is a real concern of ours. The second thing that we can do to better serve our veterans is to make sure that we're offering quality housing. And for us, that means that we're always inspection ready. Obviously, the GPD sites get inspected annually by the VA, and most of our permanent housing units are inspected by our housing agency as well. So what we do to prepare for that is we have implemented a preventive maintenance inspection program. So in our GPD properties, we're inspecting every single month, and in our permanent housing properties, we inspect quarterly. The difference is that there's so much turnover in GPD. We want to have eyes on the property much more frequently. In permanent housing, veterans are usually signing a year lease, and they're there for quite some time. So it's less disruptive to them to do quarterly inspections. We've created an inspection sheet to make sure that each maintenance tech that is going out to do these inspections knows exactly where we want them to focus on. So that inspection sheet includes, items on the outside of the house, including the windows, any exterior lights, gutters, siding, all of that. And then we go through the entire property looking at the bathrooms, the kitchens, basements, living rooms, and bedrooms. With a special focus on safety. We just had a large fire here at HVAF in the fall, so we are hyper-focused on fire prevention and safety. So that's a big part of what we do. We're inspecting electric panels. We're making sure that veterans are not using extension cords or burning candles or incense or anything like that could potentially get out of control. And all these inspections are documented every single month. And then, when we prepare for our annual VA inspections or housing agency inspections, we can go back to these sheets and make sure that, we've done our part to make sure that the housing is safe and ready for veterans. The other thing that we can do is help ensure a safe environment. And I know Ryan is going to talk more about this, but some of the things we do, as I mentioned, we're hyper-focused on fire safety. So we do pretty robust fire drills at all of our properties as part of that inspection process. So in GPD properties, it's monthly. In permanent housing, it's quarterly, but we pull the alarm. We have all the veterans evacuate. We, meet at the rally point and get full accountability, just so everyone is practicing those sort of safety things and has their evacuation plan in mind. We've also added sharps containers at all of our properties. Obviously, it's a safety issue, but we've learned from other providers in Indiana that sometimes if people don't have a safe place to put their needles, they do things like flushing down the toilets, which then becomes a significant maintenance need as well. We also have Narcan and fentanyl test strips at all of our properties as well. And just to give you an idea of how important that is, year to date, we have distributed 107 doses of Narcan just here at our headquarters property and 119 fentanyl test strips. So obviously, we are encouraging our veterans to seek sobriety, but we want to make sure that in the event that someone overdoses, we are prepared to save them. And our staff has done that before, so it's very important. We also contract with a veteran-owned security company to provide overnight and weekend security at our larger properties. We're not staffed 24/7, so them being on site is really helpful to make sure that if anything happens after hours or on the weekend, there's a veteran here that can engage with the veterans that we serve to make sure everyone is safe. Next slide. Now to the slide that probably we've all been waiting for is how do we focus on facilities improvements? So we've developed kind of a process of assessing, funding, and then making the improvements. And so when you're looking at an assessment, there are some things that we keep in mind when we're doing that. Obviously, we want to assess for safety, and that includes things like monitoring fire alarms, fire safety and suppression systems, physical security of the building, making sure the locks are good, the doors are solid, the windows lock, all of that. We also assess for accessibility. As I mentioned, a large portion of the veterans we serve are getting older, so we need to be mindful of ADA compliance with respect to ramps and doors, bathroom and kitchen layouts, and also laundry facilities. And then lastly, we want to keep an eye out for major renovations. Consistent maintenance is always needed. The properties take a beating, especially with so much turnover, but it's the major renovations that you really need to plan for and have a process to make sure that you can get those done. The next step in the process is finding funding. So we've found some unique ways to do that. Part of it is that we budget for planning and improvements, and we do that in the fall. We work through a budgeting process that starts with our senior team leaders here at HVAF, and then we work with our board of directors finance committee to kind of fine tune it to make sure that we're planning for the improvements that we know that we'll need. We've also had really good luck aligning local funders with different priorities. A unique example of that is an organization called Ortho Indy. They are an orthopedic surgeon team here in central Indiana, but they are very focused with their foundation on accessibility. So we've been able to make significant accessibility improvements, especially in our permanent housing. We completely renovated 4 units at one of our permanent housing apartment complexes to be fully ADA accessible. We've moved laundry facilities around, all using Ortho Indy funding. So, my encouragement there is to, find the interests of funders in your area and make sure that you're aligning with that. We've also had great luck with in-kind support. HVAC companies or contractors that want to donate work. We most recently had an entire sidewalk redone. It was a road construction company that just wanted to make that donation. So it's always worth the ask. We've had HVAC companies come in and replace heating and air units for us, which in a single family home, that's about a $10,000 donation. So that is well worth it. We also, a few years ago, took a look at our occupancy in our GPD properties and noticed that some of those single family homes maybe were not worth keeping. We weren't 100% full, and so we were able to sell off 3 of those properties and use that funding to start something called a building maintenance endowment. So our goal is to grow that so that each year we expect investment income to be able to fund a major renovation project. So it's taken a few years, but I think next year we'll be able to make our first request, because I feel like, especially with our larger properties, everything is always $50,000. New roof, $50,000. New flooring, $50,000. So that's kind of our funding goal to make sure that we have that available. And then the last one is make improvements. And Jay already gave Home Depot Foundation a shout out, but I want to do that as well because they've been so helpful to us here at HVAF. Last fall, they renovated 2 kitchens in 2 of our properties. This year, they have, just yesterday delivered picnic tables for all of our properties. So what's great about Home Depot is, in addition to the funding, they bring their associates, and most of them are skilled labor that can do way more than any of us can do in terms of maintenance and improvements. We've also done a really good job when we connect with a vendor to make sure that they understand our mission, and we're often able to get discounts or things at cost because they understand the importance of the work that we're doing. Next slide, please. This is all of our social media. I would welcome you to follow us on all of those. Next slide. And this is my contact information. Happy to answer any questions. If you think of one when the webinar is over, feel free to reach out. Again, it's been a pleasure to be with you today, and I hope the information was helpful.
Thank you so much for that presentation, Emmy. We do actually have quite a few questions that rolled in during your presentation, but we'll hold that for the very end. All right, next up, Ryan, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, everybody. I'm really excited to talk about Brighton Marine and our campus operations. First, I'm going to give you a layout of what Brighton Marine is, and then we'll get into the security portion, and then happy to take your questions. So Brighton Marine is a 9-acre mixed-use campus. We have everything from healthcare centers, there's a dental office, methadone clinic. There's a lot to offer, and thank you. That's the map showing the property. The one with the number 9 on it is our transitional housing building. We have 25 units dedicated to veterans who are coming straight from homelessness to beautiful studio apartments. And we have 1 unit dedicated for peer support. So we will be hiring a peer support specialist to work in that building and to be there for the veterans, should they be in crisis or they need advice or transportation or so on and so forth. It's project-based HUD-VASH housing. The VA and Boston Housing Authority they alternate between picking candidates to live on our property, and they go through case management for that. Our selection process, we look at the overall history of the veteran. The only things that would make them ineligible would be as if they had a history of arson or sexual assault. Otherwise, we try to remain flexible. As long as they don't have any recent severe criminal history, we want them to be housed and we get them in here as soon as we can. When the veteran comes, there's a soft handover. They look at the unit. If they like it, we try to move them in as soon as possible. One of the ways and one of the challenges that we find is some of the units, because a lot of these folks have mental health and substance abuse issues, is keeping their units, upkeep. Some of the units are in rougher shape than others. We have veterans that are very organized and keep their units safe and clean. And then we have other units that are really in rough shape, and our facilities team has to work really hard to keep up with them and make sure they're not taking off their smoke detectors or make sure they're not destroying their units. So it can be a challenge. And one way we hold the veterans accountable is through lease violations. We try not to be too punitive, but it is a way to hold them accountable. And the way we work it is we have case managers that follow up with the veteran and try to work with them to either get them cleaning services or more wraparound services to help them and put them in the best situation possible. The median age of our veterans is 65, roughly. We have a young veteran in his 30s that's a OIF veteran, and then we have a 93-year-old veteran who's a Korean War POW. So we have really across the board a lot of different dynamics and a lot of different personalities. One of the most important things that we do, and I'll get into this when we talk about security, but we do wellness checks, and we're able to check their activity through the fob activity through our access control system. And we'll initiate a wellness check if they haven't been active in 48 hours or so, if they haven't gone through their own door. And we will coordinate with the VA and case management, and along with myself and our security manager to conduct a wellness check. And we just don't want to have a veteran be in duress, and we're not there to help them. And unfortunately, we've found veterans deceased in their units. We've also had similar issues to what Emmy described as overdoses on campus. All our staff is Narcan trained, and we place Narcan throughout the building. We put them in little plastic bags so the veterans can take the Narcan at any time, and we check those weekly, and we replace them as needed. Our facilities department works with the veteran population so that it's safe and comfortable to live in, and they're the same. They work the same as security. They're building relationships with the veterans. They work really hard to bring a calm, safe environment for them and to really respond to things when they need it, and we try to fix things as soon as possible for them. Our campus is really well taken care of. We have a contractor that really beautifies the campus, and our facilities manager has been at Brighton Marine for 47 years. So he really does a great job keeping the property in great shape. The wraparound services, some of them include, legal power of attorney types of things. They have social security applications. We help with job placement and access to substance abuse and mental health facilities. So we try to work with the VA and our case managers to coordinate all of that for them. All right, I'll get into security, which is we're very unique on our campus having security 24/7. I realize that, but I think a lot of things that we're going to talk about are helpful tips, even if you only have part-time security or if you're managing a smaller building, maybe some things to work with local law enforcement, that kind of thing. And I look forward to your questions after this, but I will briefly run through our security program. So our security, actually, we have about 15 personnel right now. We have some per diem folks that fill in for shifts. Can you go back to the last slide, please? Sorry. We have about 15 security personnel, and we're obviously 24/7, 7 days a week. We have cameras monitored 24/7 as well. We do have cameras in the veterans building, which is not, um, we're not looking into their units or anything like that. We're looking at the common areas, and if any disaster happens, we're able to respond to it as soon as possible. We have about 180 cameras throughout the campus, and we're watching the entire property, and we're available for the veterans 24/7. Our guiding principles, we offer help, hope, and understanding. When I started at Brighton Marine 3.5 years ago, the security department was a little hands off with the veterans and didn't really interact with them as much as we do now. One of the things that we found for de-escalating is building trust with veterans and really being there to help them and provide the support when they need it. A lot of these folks don't have close family members visiting them. They don't have the support system like so many other veterans are lucky enough to have, such as myself. And we want to provide hope in difficult situations. Whether it be they have substance abuse or mental health, we want to be there for them and be active listeners. And understanding we take a kind but firm approach when facing confrontation. And what that means, it means setting the ground rules and expectations when we're in a confrontation. It doesn't happen very often, but usually, I ask my staff to keep safe distance, but to be available to listen. Usually our relationships with the veterans really help, and the veterans tend to listen to us a little more because we have that mutual respect with them. I encourage my staff to build trust and confidence between them and the veterans, and my staff attend social events that we hold for the veterans and participate in the community. So we for example, we do once a week bingo and Jeopardy in our community room with veterans, and myself and the security manager often go down there to get to know the veterans, whether they be new or people that have been here for several years. And then, like I said, we were talking about wellness checks. That's a really important part of our job, and we continue to do that. We're very lucky to have an access control system where we can check on all that. And then the other portion that has really been integral for Brighton Marine is to have strong relationships with local police departments. It's a two-way relationship. So one of the strategies is to have open communication with them. If we ever have any issues with uniformed police, we call and can let the sergeant know or the captain know at the Brighton Police Department, and they usually handle it. But we rarely have issues. We work with even the drug interdiction team. We've worked with the fugitive task force on the campus because we do have, unfortunately, from time to time, we do have drug activity that does happen. We've deterred a lot of it away because I think word has gotten around that there's police pretty active on the campus. And one strategy we've used is having police patrol the property at nighttime, just to drive through, just a presence patrol, which has been really helpful. And Boston Police also notifies me when there's an issue in the neighborhood. We had a stabbing up the street occur, and they called me first as they were dispatching people to let us know that it was happening, and we were able to lock down the campus and make sure we're monitoring cameras and keeping everybody safe while the police were doing their job. Next slide, please. And like I said, we just maintain those relationships. It's a really important part of what we do, and relationships throughout the community as well, not just with the police. We want to be there to help the veterans, and I think a big strength of Bright Marines is the wraparound services that we're able to offer, and whether it be helping them get meals or transporting them to appointments or helping them get power of attorney, we really do our best to make sure that they are comfortable and they're able to succeed. Some veterans move on to other apartment buildings. We have another large apartment building on our campus that we own 51% of, which has 102 units in it, and they're all veteran preference units, and they're income based. It's a managed building by Wynn Properties, so we own 51% of that. So with that said, I look forward to hearing your questions. I know usually I get a lot of questions when I talk about security on the campus, so happy to take any that you have.
Great. Thank you for your presentation. We're going to move on to our Q&A portion. Oh, cool. Emmy, you're back on camera. So we have an audience question from Lisa Martinez. Is overnight security done with transitional housing or permanent housing?
We have it at both locations. So we have two large transitional housing facilities. One has 45 beds and one has 51. So we do security at both of those, and they're both GPD sites. And then at our larger permanent housing projects, we do as well.
All right. Next question, we have Juanita Carey from Access Housing. How do you cover costs for security usually?
So security is an eligible expense for GPD. So we bill the security for the GPD sites as part of our regular GPD grant. In our permanent housing projects, we have intentionally sought out funding to help support the operating costs. We just feel like when we start to get 20 plus veterans in one location, kind of as Ryan said, like that's when things start to happen. So we want to make sure that we've got eyes on the property. We have cameras as well, but utilizing a veteran-owned security company is very helpful to us in the evening on the weekend.
And do you also want to take a crack at that one?
Sure. So because we have commercial real estate on the property, we're able to drive a lot of revenue from that. We lease out parking spaces to local children's hospital. It's across the street that's doing some rebuilding. And then we have other tenants that pay for parking as well. And then we have several buildings where we have space to lease out, which helps fund our security.
So I think this is also kind of in the same vein, but what level of security would be possible if funded only by housing income and voucher subsidies? For example, if you didn't run the TRICARE plan as your major business activity.
So I mentioned we do security on the evening and weekend, and it's not, they kind of rotate through the property. So they're not at every property for 8 hours overnight or all, 72 hours-ish of the weekend. They more come in and out because it's really all we can afford. It would be nice if we could afford 24/7 security presence, but we have the ability to surge when needed. So we had a tenant at one of our permanent housing programs that was going to be given a 30-day notice. So we reached out to our security company and they were able to send someone to be with us during that time as well. So that's the benefit of building relationships with our vendors. And as I mentioned, they're veteran owned. So they're really passionate about what we do too.
And Ryan, do you have a take on
No, I mean, to follow up, we're very lucky to have 24/7 security. We can influx our staff if we need to. If we have a crisis, we're able to call in extra set of hands if we need it, and we work in conjunction with our maintenance team. So if we were to have a fire, for example, our maintenance team works along with us to clear out the buildings because we have a smaller staff, but we're able to be flexible in that manner.
Jay, you're muted.
that was bound to happen one of those days or one of these days. Okay. second crack at this. How do you determine a reserve policy slash annual budget to ensure that you have sufficient resources to repair and or recapitalize your facility?
So our budgeting process is just based on historical experience. So we take a look at the prior year budget, figure out if there was anything special in that year, either less or more expensive, and we make adjustments to that as well. We also are fortunate to have a great United Way here in Central Indiana. So they actually will allow nonprofits to apply for a grant to do a property assessment that can help you do a longer term planning for the major maintenance needs that you will need. Then once you do the assessment with United Way, they'll also offer the opportunity to have a facilities improvement grant. So you can apply for some of that funding to help with your planned projects over a multi-year period.
Let's see. We have another question related to critical incidents with how in the event that you guys utilizing a security company, how how are critical incidents usually managed?
So probably like all of you, we have a critical incident policy that helps dictate that. But before we implement the policy, it's important to know that we've got 24-hour on-call social worker and 24-hour on-call maintenance. So in addition to any security that might be here in the overnight and weekend, our staff are always available as well. And depending on the kind of incident, it could be something that the staff member handles, and they will coordinate. For instance, like if a veteran needs to be transported via ambulance to the hospital, the staff member that's on call can handle that and then report it appropriately to senior management of the company. If it's a bigger event like our fire, obviously senior management are notified right away. It's kind of an all hands on deck approach to that.
Do you want to take a crack as well?
Sure. We have incidents from time to time on the campus. Over the years they've gone down, which is great. But when we have a critical incident, I'm usually the first to be notified. I'm on call 24/7 along with our security manager. And depending on who that gets the call, which is normally me, my first call is to our CEO to let her know what's going on. And, you triage it. Sometimes there's events that happen, like she said, ambulance comes, picks up a veteran because they're having stomach issues or something like that. That's going to happen. That's not a phone call. But what is a phone call? If a veteran overdoses on the campus, that sets in motion our chain of event, our call chain to notify everyone. So it really varies, and it's a judgment call by myself and our security manager. But we also have a crisis management plan that we go by as well to evaluate all that.
Thank you. So another question for the both of you, this one from Gianna. When a veteran is given a notice to vacate the premises, if the veteran leaves without taking his belongings, what is your policy?
We will keep belongings for up to 30 days and store it for the veteran and try to do everything we can to get them to come back and get it.
We have the same exact policy. We put it in storage for 30 days and we try to arrange to transport it elsewhere if we can, but a lot of times they leave it behind, unfortunately.
Thank you. Another open question. Facilities to serve veterans experiencing homelessness are often placed in disenfranchised parts of the community or in historic facilities. What challenges and opportunities does this create for providers?
I think what you've just described is HVAF's model. So we have invested a lot in security cameras, as Ryan said, both in the interior of all of the common spaces of our buildings, but also exterior, especially in the parking lot. For our larger properties, the entry door is locked. So we have electronic access card for veterans to get in, and then their separate key for their own unit. So also then if a veteran leaves, we can deactivate the card and they no longer have access to the building. And we work a lot with the local police in our area. If we can have an agreement where they'll do extra patrols around our facility, or just know that we're providing this critical service for veterans in the community. We've had a lot of good luck cooperating with local police.
Actually, Emmy, we have another question that came in for you. What is your GPD turnover, and do many of your GPD veterans enter your PSH program? Where do most of your veterans come from?
So I would say that our turnover, we're veterans are averaging between 6 to 9 months in our GPD program. So we turn over probably 2 beds a week, I would say. And so our team is very good about, the case management team helps make sure the veteran gets their stuff packed up, then the maintenance team quickly turns the unit so we can get somebody rehoused. GPD is not necessarily a pipeline for PSH, just because veterans can stay in PSH for as long as they like. So the vast majority of veterans that we serve in GPD move out into housing on their own. Some do that utilizing SSVF, but just I would say a few a year might move into our permanent housing program.
And where are most of those veterans coming from?
So Indianapolis is the capital city of Indiana, and most of the services are here. So there are quite a few veterans that are from Indianapolis, but then we also attract veterans from throughout central Indiana.
And and for Brighton Marine, where are most of those clients coming from? Right.
Some very similar. Most of them are from the Boston area or live in the Boston area. They a lot of times will originate at the New England Center for Homeless Veterans, and that'll be one of the places they jump off from to come live at a facility such as ours. But we do have veterans from other parts of Massachusetts as well.
We have another question related to personal items. So, um, do you have a good way that you deal with excess personal items? This person states that some veterans tend to bring too much stuff with them to their transitional housing program. Uh, Within your respective organizations, how do you deal with the excess amount of personal things that they have?
We limit the number of personal items that veterans can bring into our transitional units. They are only supposed to be allowed to bring 2 totes of personal items. And we've actually implemented, as part of our kind of enrollment process, that everyone meets at one of our properties. It's on the near west side of Indianapolis. They complete their paperwork there. But we also have set up a bed bug oven there. So any personal items they bring go through the bed bug oven to try to mitigate the risk of an infestation at any of our properties. So that also gives the case manager a chance to pare down stuff that any veteran might have, and also make sure they're not bringing things they shouldn't be bringing into transitional housing.
Very similar for us. The case manager typically works with a veteran and our director of programs and services as well to kind of set the expectations for what the veterans can bring to the units. At Brighton Marine, all the veterans have a storage unit, which is basically a normal closet size. So if they do have excess stuff, they can keep them in the storage units.
Thank you. Another question from Caitlin. What is the best / most appropriate method for asking companies for donations of labor and supplies? For example, like Home Depot.
We have a great relationship with our contact here. He is a store manager, and so over the years we've just invested in that relationship, and that's what we have tried to do with any donors that might want to support us. Our director of maintenance is a Vietnam veteran as well, so he talks about his own service and how long he's been here, and that really makes a difference with some vendors. But also, as part of your kind of marketing effort, we're always looking for volunteers and in-kind donations. So some businesses have just reached out to us through our own social media efforts or our marketing efforts to say, hey, we saw you, like, how can we be helpful? Trade unions are great opportunities too. People that a lot of veterans join unions, but they also are skilled labor and they want to support the community. So try to cast a wide net and just, be upfront with people about what you need and ask for their support.
Great, thank you, Emmy. So de-escalation is a critical component of facility security practices. What are some of the most unconventional yet successful de-escalation practices you've seen utilized? Ryan, I'll let you start off.
Sure. That's a great question. You have to get creative when you're dealing with a crisis, typically. Like I was saying before, there's no gray area. We had a staff member witness an altercation happen in our elevator in our transitional housing building, and fortunately he saw it in time, was able to get over and break it up. And we don't do hands-on or anything like that, but he got in between them because he had no choice, because we didn't want anybody getting hurt. But separating them and really doing a good job saying, listen, separating them from each other, putting them in different areas, calling for backup and calling the police, are typical what we do. But as far as being creative, it goes back to building those relationships with our veterans and really honing in on those things, whether it be joking around with them, talking sports, asking them about their service, which is the number one thing I always tell my staff to do because a lot of people don't ask them about it. So those relationships are so key to our de-escalation practices.
The only thing I would add there, Jay, is that we remind our staffs that we're the professionals, and so that veterans come in crisis. I often sort of describe it as they're coming here at the worst time in their life, and so they might behave in ways that we wish they didn't, but we are the professionals, and the burden is on us to make sure that we're doing everything we can to calm the situation and keep everybody safe.
Great. Thank you, you too. So, what are some of the most successful ways organizations can enhance their partnerships with local police departments and the surrounding community to sort of enhance their safety of the veterans?
So one of the strategies we've used is just reaching out directly to the police department and saying, hey, do you want to come over for a luncheon and learn about Brighton Marine? And that works out really well for us. We do that at least once a year, if not more. We drop off food at the police station down the street as well. And we kind of forge those relationships with them that way. And a lot of times we ask for police officers that are veterans to come over and check out the property because we feel that they'll be able to kind of articulate, understand kind of what some of these veterans are going through on a day-to-day basis. And we really want them to understand when they come to our property, you don't have to come in guns blazing. Like, we want people to kind of have the same kind of demeanor that our security staff have, which is to be calm and not make judgments and really listen to our veterans.
Emmy, do you have insights on that as well?
I would just echo Ryan's comments. It's much better to have the relationships before you need them. So, be proactive in reaching out to the precinct that's close to your housing properties, making sure they understand who you're serving and the unique needs of the population. And, we've found first responders to be very receptive to what we're doing, and they want to be helpful too. So build that relationship before you need it.
So it seems like a lot of folks in this room are really interested in the security aspect of facilities management. I really appreciate all the questions that are flowing in. So another question from Lisa: what types of personal items are allowed or not allowed?
We don't really weigh in on what's allowed versus not allowed, unless it's a safety risk. Obviously, no firearms, no alcohol, no drugs. And then in terms of appliances, we try to keep that to a minimum as well. Some veterans come with a special coffee pot that they want. That's fine, but we do want to limit the use of extension cords. Space heaters are not permitted. Really, the things that would present a risk or a hazard, those are the things that we would not allow.
Yeah, we try to dissuade our veterans from having anything similar to firearms, any kind of weapons, that kind of thing. They wouldn't be allowed to have. But it is independent living at the end of the day, so we're not, going through their belongings one by one. There's an expectation that they can live on their own, and we're here to support them. But that is a challenge. It can be tough.
Great. Thank you. Another question from Carl asking about the screening process before folks enter in your program. Whether you have access to veteran history with VA and other health and mental health activities, or history, I should say.
So for our transitional housing, all of our veterans come through coordinated entry, and they're doing their referrals and assessments. For permanent housing, the majority of the units come through coordinated entry, but units that are just affordable, we do our own screening. And we try to be the kind of landlord that we ask other landlords to be. So we want to be lenient on, poor credit histories and criminal convictions. Obviously, we have to keep safety first and foremost, but we want to be as flexible as we can because we want to be a provider of second chances and allow veterans to get back on their feet in our properties.
Yeah, we conduct Corey checks, and it's we're pretty loose with what we're allowing here because again we want to be flexible as well, and we want to give them a chance to succeed. We believe in them, and we really set that precedent when they show up. Like I was saying before, the only thing that would really stop a veteran from moving in is if they had a history of arson or sexual assault.
Thank you. We have time for maybe one more question. Caitlin, you're the lucky winner. So from Caitlin, how do you view and manage discharging a veteran before housing is established?
If I understand the question right, it would be like we're not going to be able to house them. We're going to discharge them from our program.
So for context, Caitlin's saying that they generally consider it based on if they're posing a risk to others or going AWOL for so many days in a row with no contact.
So obviously, we keep a close eye on negative exits for our GPD grant. That's one of the metrics that the VA tracks. So the only thing that is kind of a hard and fast rule is we discharge for violent behavior against fellow veterans or staff. Everything else we kind of work through. If they go AWOL, it's a negative exit. So we have, a daily check-in system and hopefully we're keeping track of veterans, but that happens too.
And do you have anything to add to that?
Very similar. If a veteran, assaults a staff member or is actively involved in drug activity and they've been arrested by the police on campus, that would trigger us to go to housing court with a veteran. There's a lot of protections in Massachusetts for tenants, as there should be, but it is a process to go through and to have a veteran removed.
All right, so gonna cap it off with really a short answer question to get your broad take on facilities management and what you guys think are the most um, challenging parts of facilities management, whether it's security, financial health, maintenance, repairs, staffing, inspections. What's the biggest gap that you guys see in your eyes?
Let's say all of the above. But I think, the hardest part, I think, is making sure to find the funding to provide quality housing, because everything is kind of built on that. And that is, I think, the biggest gap in the federal grants that we have is that you can do routine maintenance, but when you're, managing 15 properties and you've got hundreds of veterans passing through them, you need more than routine maintenance. So being able to have a program where you can predict what improvements you need to make so in enough time that you can secure the funding is really key.
Ryan?
A lot of the challenges we face are with just upkeep of the building, making sure, veterans are, not encouraging pests to come in their units by having them, really messy and destroying the units. So our maintenance team does have some frustrations around that, but the way we work around that is really being there for the veteran and using our wraparound services to help them.
Well, we'll close out on that. First, I want to thank our wonderful panel for sharing their insights with us. And thank you to our audience for attending today's webinar. I hope all of you came out with practical insights on managing facilities, or if you plan on opening up your own veterans facility, that this gave you some really good information. So that said, a couple things before I shut up and go away. We have one more webinar coming out in September, which will focus on alternative funding sources and fundraising. So go ahead and register for that webinar if you have the time. We'll send out an email on that. In addition to that, I also want to close out with thanking the Home Depot Foundation for their generous support for this project and generous support for serving the veteran community. So really big shouts out to them. That said, thank you all for coming in, and see you next time.